And of course, we are back with you. It's Sunday Talk. Let's talk politics with Uncle Tommy, Professor Washit, and you. And that is all going on. People feeling the pain in Trinidad and they're frightened to live. Simple.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they're feeling the pain and they're frightened to live. They're frightened. They're frightened. Anyway, let's bring in our guest, a young man from far and wide, from all the way up there, as to put it, up there far and wide. No other than the young man, Dr. Wayne, the Watchman Hayde.
On the motherland.
Yeah, yeah. Where you are, you not frightened to live. You ain't frightened.
I'm not, no, not at all. Not at
Turn up
all.
your volume a little bit.
Okay, let me see if we get the volume up. Maybe I should just talk louder. Are you
No,
hearing
no,
me?
all right, all right. I get a little volume too. So,
Okay, cool.
so, hey, Dr. Hayde, the song you had told me, was it We or Them or We the People? Which one you had tell me about? The song
No, it's we to blame.
or We to Blame?
Mhm.
We to Blame. Let me see. We to Blame. All right. I want to play that before you.
So how have you been? Happy New Year to you.
Same to you, gentlemen. Happy New Year. All the best. I know it's cold by you. It's warm by me.
What's the temperature like you're in Uganda, right?
Yeah,
What's the temperature like there?
it's hot.
What is hot? I mean, 100
Um,
degrees.
no, no.
Mm.
1890.
It may be 80, yeah.
What is the lowest the temperatures get there?
Um, I don't know, maybe 22?
Celsius. Celsius, that is.
Yeah,
Celsius, we in
yeah.
Fahrenheit. No.
It's not, it don't get too cold and it don't get too hot. But here, people, since they don't know better, they would complain. Where I would walk outside with a, you know, with a thin shirt or something, they will put on a sweater.
A sweater?
Yeah, because they think it's cold, and I laugh, because
Yeah,
this is
nah,
nothing.
we,
And
we,
then,
we supposed to have a cold spell coming around here with the temperature going to be in the single digit, single
yeah,
digits. And today was, I was outside. Um, I did that 3 miles. It was only about 30 something degrees. It wasn't that cold. Can you
okay,
imagine? I from Trinidad and I saying 30 something degrees is not that cold, eh?
yeah,
But it's a big difference between 30 something and like 10 degrees or something like that.
hmm.
I mean, but hey, by the way, how you getting named the Watchman?
Oh, actually, what happened is that when I wanted to sing calypso, I wanted to create a name for myself. So there was the independence competition coming up, and I intended to go on and apply, do the audition and that. So I sat at home and I was thinking up names, and I came up with names like Rebel Wayne. That was one name I came up with. Then um, um, Chronicle, and I was thinking what really those two names, but at the same time the TV was on and there was Gael and Rash Shorty I and the family circle they were singing on Gael, and it was a song say about the watchman on the walls of Jerusalem, and it struck me like a bolt of lightning, hey, the watchman, because the watchman is supposed to look out for people and tell them when things are going wrong, and also look out for the bad things that are happening in society. So I just put the watchman on the form, and I went to the competition the weekend, and I put it on the form, and I it was scary. I could tell you, it was the first time I was singing, outside of UWI. I sang in UWI for the first time, and when I went on stage and I started to sing. One of the judges, Dr. Fido Blake, he just jumped up in the air, and put his two hands up in the air when I was singing, and people from outside started coming in, other Calypsonians, to hear what I was singing, and it was called Boots and Brains. And after I was finished, and I went backstage, Peter Ray Blood, came up to me and he said, ask me questions about myself. And I told him I was in UE and so on, and policeman and all of that. And the next day in the newspaper, I think it was The Sun at the time, there was an article, "Hold on to your crown, Crocro, the Watchman coming strong." Because Crocro was the defending monarch. And that year, Crocro decided not to defend, and I made it all the way to the finals and I won. So that's how they named the Watchman.
Yeah, that, I mean,
I see about the screen, the Winner Glory.
I think when I was setting up the email, they gave me some alternate names, and I just did not change it. I wanted to change it, and I just didn't do it, so it remained like that. So I said, fine, it's yeah. I want to be a winner, and I want to glorify the Almighty. You understand? So
Very positive, very positive.
so I just kept it like
right. So somebody said, Volsang said, and aside, we again live in the days of your song in the 19s. Boy, hush your mouth and don't say a thing. What says you?
Well, that was a different time, and basically, it was after the coup, and I was saying things that people might have been a little difficult for those in power to hear and accept. So my calypsos seem to come to go back and come forward whenever the mood meets the society, because I sing more political and social commentary in a more way that touches the society. I try not to be too general, but to be very specific. Now, it means that sometimes it's difficult for people outside of Trinidad or outside the Caribbean to always grasp what happened or what is happening. But for people in the country, they could always look back and see what it was and what it is now. And I would say, is we to blame? Is a calypso that reflects the trauma that the society was going through. This thing about rising crime and rising corruption, rising criminality, rising political upheaval, and so on, it didn't start yesterday. It has been growing, and I had my own thesis, which I attempted to put into the calypsos, including hush your mouth and don't say a thing, attack with full force. That from the 1990 coup and the lack of consequences for those who were engaged in that coup set the society down a path of no return, because now nobody feels that there are consequences. And that's why I said in the song, I went all the way back to the 1970, and I said, if in 70 we did blow away Rafik Shah, we'd never hear a boo from any backer. Even though Rafik Shah, and I over the years I've come to admire his writing and his conviction and so on. But if I'm a policeman looking at it, if you attempt to do anything like that, then at that moment in time you become my enemy, because I'm the police, and that is it. But in 1990, that was different because they went and they killed innocent people, and some members of parliament, it is alleged on good grounds, helped to sneak copies of the amnesty out of parliament, presumably in their underwear, because they were not searched, that allowed Abu Bakr and his not so merry men to escape justice. Because I think the intention was of the state to use an amnesty to relieve the situation, and then give with one hand and take back with two, like what Mr. Pandis used to say. But in the end, it became the tool that they used to escape justice. I'm sorry, had I been involved in any power way, there would have been accidents, particularly to the ringleaders. That's my honest opinion.
What do you mean by accident?
Well, I would not gone into the parliament not shooting. Since the prime minister was already shot, police officers were already shot, there would have been no quarter given, none asked.
You would have listened to what the prime minister said. Attack with full force.
Yes.
Now, talking about prime minister, today we have a situation where the prime minister is basically calling the police cowards.
Oh, yes. That was let me say this first. The prime minister, I do not believe that he is telling a lie. I believe strongly, and from the anecdotal evidence I myself received from other persons, including trusted police officers and former police officers, that sometimes police officers in certain station districts or certain stations would in fact close the door, take off the light, and go to sleep. But this has a history. In the old days, under the standing orders, stations were classified into A, B, and C, with C being the lowest grade of station, and those stations tended to close in the night because sometimes they had skeleton staff and they were out in Cedros and fine in Maracas and those kind of places, those outpost stations. They never changed the regulation. They never changed that standing order. They never removed it from consideration. Even though we have reached a stage where every police station, every police post should in effect be operating 24 hours a day, given the increase in population, the increase in criminality, and the need for members of the population to get an opportunity to interact with the police, especially at night when things tend to happen. Even going to the station for an emergency that is not related to a crime, like somebody taking sick or something like that. And it has happened. There's no doubt about that. The prime minister didn't see it himself, but I'm sure he was told. But the reason had nothing to do with cowardice. The reason had to do with lack of discipline, slackness, malingering, and failure of senior officers in the job to properly supervise and monitor the men and women in their divisions and branches and sections. That is what goes wrong like that. Unless the prime minister could provide exact evidence that people were in effect shut in the station because they were afraid of the criminals, to me it doesn't make sense, because once you do that, then it means that you're telling the criminals that they can walk in and take what they want.
You embolden them.
Yes, and I believed, and I said it, that in a voice note, that the prime minister, in my opinion, was reckless and irresponsible not to criticize the police for doing something wrong, but to do it in that manner and in the parliament at that time.
But
Because
Dr. Hayde,
yes,
were you surprised that the Prime Minister was reckless and irresponsible? This is not the first time Prime Minister really have been reckless and irresponsible. This is par for the course, as you say in golf. It's par for the course.
well, I don't want to engage in characterizing all of his behaviors or actions or attitudes because I don't know enough of it to make that determination.
No,
But what I can say
Dr.
is
Hayde,
in this
but,
one,
but Dr.
yeah.
Hayde, there have been many other instances where the Prime Minister have been very reckless. And as a Prime Minister, you have to be very impeccable with your words.
Well, we say so, but I've seen prime ministers and presidents and I've been a fair number of places in the world who have done, in my opinion, and said things that are even more reckless and irresponsible than that. And I can quote your former president and soon president from tomorrow as falling within that vein.
That
So
category.
human beings are like that. And you can't, not everybody is the same, and you can't dictate how people will act under pressure or when put in certain circumstances. I try to keep away from the general politics. You guys have been discussing the politics and the economics for a long time, and you are more in tune to that than me. I try to stick to the security and law enforcement aspects as it linked legally and operationally because I believe that is where my strength lies. And the
But
prime minister, it was unnecessary for him to say that because everyone knew that the SOE would have been extended unanimously. There was no way the opposition was going to vote against it. So what was the purpose of saying it? That the policemen are hiding from the criminals, in effect calling them cowards. When that in itself, the impact of that could be to reduce morale generally, because having not identified who it is you're talking about specifically, then everybody gets started with the same brush. And that's something I've seen a lot, even in calypso singing. That's why I like when I'm singing to point my fingers directly at who I'm aiming at so that everybody else around them wouldn't get, muddied with the same water. And that is something I felt strongly the Prime Minister should not have done. So this is not a question of whether what he was saying is the truth. There are civilians out there and police officers who know that there have been instances where it has happened. And if you listen to the police association's explanation, it seems to lend credence to what the Prime Minister was saying. Because they were given, in my opinion, were excuses to justify why a station might be closed. Well, we have air conditions, so we have to keep the doors closed. Well, we have glass doors with a one-way tint that in the night people could stay from outside and see inside, and we can't see inside, so we have to take off the light. Well, there are bushes around the station that we didn't get cut, and that might cause somebody to conceal themselves in there to provide us, to create some harm to us. All these are things that are risks that you undertake as a police officer. And every station I know ought to have station sentries, station compounds. Every station ought to have cameras and monitors so that you could stay from outside and see inside. And if it was necessary, for people not to see inside the station, there are measures that you can take to prevent that. But what people would see when they're approaching a station is that it looks locked. It looks, even though they would argue, no, the doors are not locked, doors are open, but only police will be brave enough, or maybe reporters, to go up and pull the door in the night. members of the public may feel that it's closed and they wouldn't go. And that is something that we must address in the police service.
No, in your opinion, right, based on the last 3 years with the highest amount of murders in the history of Trinidad and Tobago, do you believe that the government and the TTPS and all those in control is doing enough to stem the runaway murders that we have in Trinidad and Tobago?
Obviously not. But why limit it to the last 3 years?
No, 10
It
years.
has
I
been
said 10 years. 10 years.
10 years?
Yeah,
Well,
a decade. A decade.
It's going back beyond that. There has been a steady rise in murders and in particular gun-related crimes. So let's not get carried away here. It is guns. 90% of the people being killed are being killed by guns. So
Guns don't shoot themselves. Guns don't shoot themselves. Someone has to use it.
Yeah, and even in cases where they do shoot themselves, it is because they have a gun, right? You know, and accidents could happen. You remember, a commissioner of prisons shot himself in the leg whilst carrying two firearms on his person. That was an accident, but surely, again, the presence of a firearm caused that.
Do you believe?
Yeah.
Do you believe that it's time to arm the citizenry of Trinidad and Tobago in order to even up the field?
That will be stupid, reckless, and irresponsible, because most people in the society would not even know what to do with a firearm, and no amount of 1 week or 2 week training is going to bring about that. What will happen is that more husbands will shoot wives, more wives will shoot husbands, more children will shoot each other in accidents like what happened recently. More guns will be stolen by the criminals because they will target those homes where they know people have guns, because people with firearms like to show off. Businessmen, you see businessmen get, those who got 25 and 30 firearms, what they do? They get gold-plated guns and they get fancy guns because they want to show off to their friends, which makes them an easy target. No. And Trinidad and Tobago is not the United States of America. And even in America, they're trying to reduce guns and not to arm every citizen, or even the more law-abiding ones. And I would trust the American system in terms of holding persons accountable and preventing them from getting firearms that I would do in the Trinidad system. Because a lot of criminals and a lot of people who should not have firearms are getting firearms, and no action is taken to address it. For example, the law says that if somebody is charged or convicted of domestic violence, a person like that should not be holding a firearm. And if they are holding a firearm and they get charged or convicted, as commissioner of police, if I'm in a position, I would remove their firearms until the matter has been resolved because of the risk involved. And the same applies to someone who's charged for rape. How could you have someone who's charged for rape and the victim is alive and in the public domain, and you're giving that person a gun? Suppose the case starts to turn against that person when the case is called in court and evidence is going. Don't you see what we are caught in danger? And there are many people in society who should not have firearms, including police officers. Let me tell you something. When we started in the early 90s asking, when I was president of the Social and Welfare Association, we were the ones asking that police officers who are off duty be armed and be given FULs so that when they go home, if they have to protect themselves because there are criminals making threats to them outside, And when they leave the station, they have to leave their firearms, or if something happens, they could respond. We've started recommending that. But what we said as well is, and we told the commissioner this in writing, that those who should not get, for those who have drug, alcohol, domestic violence, other crimes that they're charged with, on suspension for certain kinds of crimes, should not be granted firearms. And therefore, you could do assessments of people in making a determination whether they should receive a firearm. So we are not even advocating, we were not advocating that all police officers be armed, even though in effect, it might serve the society better. But since we have to recognize that the discipline in the service has fallen to such an extent that we have some bandits walking around in police uniform, and sometimes we know who they are, we just can't convict them, then we have to be careful who we going to give firearms to, because there have been allegations and evidence in the past where police officers in a particular station and in more than one instance were renting firearms to the criminals who would use it to carry out certain illegal activities and then return it. These things can happen because we're talking about human beings, and not all policemen and women are honest and law-abiding citizens. And we have failed to take steps to weed them out of the service, even when we know that they have done things that should not they should not be around for much longer. If I could give you just a simple example. We had two recent incidents where you see someone, reportedly a police officer, at his home, abusing, insulting, even using obscene language to police officers who come to his home in pursuance of an investigation for which he was subsequently charged.
Right, I saw that.
That person is a special reserve police officer. But the way, because everybody identify everybody as police, which is wrong, we have not have that demarcation between TTPS, estate police, city police, and SRPs. And we have, I think part of it is to take government has to take the blame for it, not only this government, but previous government as well. Rather than increase the strength of the service up to what the optimal strength should be, they went through a process where they started, basically you could call it deputizing or transferring SRPs into the regular service without additional training, without additional screening, to show that the strength has increased. But the strength might have increased, but not necessarily the quality. And then people, in the old days, people used to have on their lapels, they used to have a mark which tell you whether they're TTPS or SRP or city police. They started taking it off and walking around with uniforms that I'm looking on something here, and somebody is saying that they want to totally disagree with me because when I say crime has been on a steady rise. That's misinformation. That person is misinformed and not following statistics. And what they're looking at, and I could tell you already when I see those comments, is someone who trying to take the benefit of the COVID years. So there was a decrease under one commissioner, a decrease during a worldwide pandemic. It is as if this commissioner, during the SOE, will get the benefit to say that the murder rate decreased, and it was because of her leadership or the police action. No, There's a
But
state of emergency, so
but
things
but
are
but,
locked down.
Dr. Hayde,
Yeah.
I have the numbers here for crime from, well, I mean, I could go back from 2010 to 2023, right?
So you're only going from 2010, not before.
Yeah, I only have 8 yet, but I have those statistics on my phone, not on my phone, on my laptop, with regards
Yeah.
to prior, okay,
With
and
regards to what?
prior 2010.
Uh-huh.
But if you are saying that crime been on the rise, and you actually look at the numbers, you will see there are certain periods where crime really wasn't on the rise.
No, wait. You when we talk about crime being on the rise, we tend to identify serious crime, those involving death or
Murders,
destruction,
murders,
murders, and so on.
murders. Right.
Not certain categories of crime, which I know from the 90s when I was president of the association. We will get the statistics every year and see some crimes will fluctuate. It will go like this, like car theft. We'll do like this one year, and then that by another year, then it might come back up here. There are some fluctuations in some categories of crime. It always happens. But when it comes to gun-related crimes, can you tell me if your statistics show you that there's been a decline? There was a decline once when under one commissioner, it was very high.
But
That was 1 year when it went up particularly high to over 500. You remember that?
yes, but Dr. Hayde, let's be honest.
Right.
Let's be
Yeah.
let's be honest.
Mhm.
Most people in Trinidad and Tobago will look at murders. Yes, there are other things, but they are more interested. Let's take this call. Let's take this. I have a question for you. Hold on. Caller, do you have a question for Dr. Hayde? Caller, do you have a question for Dr. Hayde? Yeah, do you have a question for Dr. Hayde?
Gentleman would just send the message.
Yeah.
I disagree with you totally, right? And you cannot stay there and say what you think I'm talking about. No, I'm not talking about between COVID. I'm talking about, I have the numbers also on my phone, that even going back to Patrick Manning days, crime fluctuates, especially murders, under a certain government. And I have the numbers to show. I'm not just talking out of my, because I feel to talk on a program.
Well, please give the numbers. Please give the numbers.
All right.
What's that?
He said, please give the numbers.
Please give the numbers and the years and the government. That will help to not just say you have the numbers. Let's hear the numbers.
Hold on. You're asking for something. I'm going to respond to you. Hold on.
Right.
One second, Wall Street.
Yeah.
But I'm hardly hearing him. I'm hearing Wall Street louder than him.
Yes, because I'm far away. Sorry. I will speak louder.
1 second. I'm pulling it up here on my phone.
You're right. Thank you, sir.
I'm going back from before 2010.
Yes.
One second, it's almost there. Loading. Right, we got it. Nice. I'm going back from 1994.
Okay. When I was in the service and I was president of the Police Service Social and Welfare Association.
I'm hearing you, but I'm going to read it out now, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
1994, the murder toll was 143, right?
Mm-hmm.
1995, the murder toll was 122.
Mm-hmm.
This is where it get interesting now with the steady increase that I'm disagreeing with you with. 1996, the government changed. And the murder toll went down to 106. 1997, 101. 1998, 98. 1999, 93. Is that a steady decline, sir? Let's go again. 2000, 118. Right? Listen now. The government changed back. from 118 to 151, from 151 to 171, 161 to 229, 222, 260, 260 to 386, 386 to 368, 368 to 395. Get us now. 2008.
A steady increase. Steady increase.
50. 2009, 509. 2010, between the change of government, it was half and half, 485. Listen again, the government changed. 2011, 354, going back down. 2012, 383. 2013, 408. 2014, 403. 2015, change of government again, 410, watch again. 2016, 463. 2017, 494. 2018, 523. 2019, 539. 2020, 396. That's COVID, we are just speaking about. 2021, 448. Let's go now again. 2022, 613. 2023, 577. Three breaking numbers, 620 something, when they put official, but we know it's 640 something. So you tell me, sir, how do you describe that as a steady increase?
All right.
I'll listen off.
Yeah, man. All right. So Dr. Hayde, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Let's go for a quick break. And when we come back, because Dr. Hayde, you come with the facts, Dr. Hayde. You come with the facts.
What facts? What they came with is, I'm not here attacking any particular government. I don't care.
No. I don't think.
And that's what I'm getting. That
No.
they're going right. I am telling you that over the years, as populations increase, as type of offenses increase by laws that you might pass, there is a steady increase. And I'm not looking at which government is in power. I am looking at overall figures to see that there is a steady increase. Because if you start talking about 1994 is 143,
hold a minute,
and then 2000, yeah,
we gotta go for the break. So hold a minute, stay right there,
Okay,
folks.
All right,
it's
cool.
It's Sunday Talk. Let's talk politics with Uncle Tommy, Professor Wall Street, Dr. Wayne Hayde, and you on WZYE 95.9 FM. Stick and stay, folks. We're gonna go for a quick break, and we're gonna be right back. And if you have questions for Dr. Hayde, you are free to call, and I'm sure he will take your questions and give you answers. We'll be right back. Don't go nowhere.
You're listening to WZYE 95.9 FM. You are listening to WZYE 95.9 FM, the most influential name in Caribbean radio in the tri-state area. Broadcasting from East Orange, New Jersey, the most influential name in Caribbean radio, WZYE 95.9 FM.
My people, put your hands together. Let me bring on stage Wayne Hayde, better known as Watchman.
I'm an African, I'm a West Indian, I'm a Trinbagonian. Yes, all these things are true. But I'm a working man, a Calypsonian, I'm your fellow human. Yes, I am one of you. But every time I ask you to choose your people, you start using color and class one time. But as a man who knows how it is to struggle, let me tell you how I choose mine. Like if a man could sell on the highway all day, just to try and live honestly, and would break he back in a quarry for small pay. Anytime he wants, he can walk with me. But if you call yourself a top lawyer, well, go to court and lie to try to save a drug pusher. If Dolce the money make you fat while your conscience grows small, you're a leech and you're not my people at all. Rise up, my people, let the world know you are alive. Let them see that despite all struggle, my people are bound to survive.
And of course, that is the man himself, the man in person here, boy. Dr. Wayne Hayde, my people. Dr. Hayde, my people. So, Dr. Hayde, continue with the question. I want to agree to Dr. Hayde that when you state consistent rise, I have the numbers.
Steady rise.
And I don't think the numbers bear out that statement. If it's consistent, means to say that over, let me say, a 5-year period, or even more than a 5-year period, it will happen consistently going up and never really going down.
Okay.
What says you?
You see, you can't do it in a year-by-year basis to determine whether there's a rise, a steady rise or a continued rise. What you have to do is look at, let's say, over a 10-year period. Let's look at the murder rate in the 80s, then look at the murder rate in the 90s, and then in the 2000s. And you would see that whereas, like if you're quoting the figures from 1996, you're not 1999, 1998, and so on, you're not seeing it go over 200. But then
Hold on. Go ahead, Dr. Hayde.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So when you go on later on, you'll see it has risen.
Yes, it has, but it wasn't.
Right. And I am saying, okay, let's not argue the classification, and because I am not here to talk about which government it was. I am looking.
No, we ain't talking
right.
about that. Let's talk about the numbers.
You see, right. That's what the gentleman said, that there was only a rise or it under a certain government.
Yes, but Dr. Hayde,
it could fluctuate. Yeah.
And even though you said that, it is true though. It is absolutely true that when you look at the numbers and you look at the government in power, under certain government, crime goes up, and under another government, crime goes down. Based on the numbers, that is accurate. That's not what you are talking about.
When you say crime, you're talking about
murders. Let me be specific. Murders.
Right.
Go up
yeah.
under certain government, and it go down under certain government. The statistics tells you that. So that's not.
Let me put you on the spot now.
Okay.
Which governments are you talking about? Let's say, right? In recent memory, the governments that have been in power is the PNM,
yeah,
the UNC, COP. Well, called the People's Partnership.
Yeah.
Do we treat that as a separate type of government, or are you classifying that under the opposition, under UNC?
That's UNC. Because them are the majority.
Well, right, but some will might argue with you that you can't do that if it was a partnership. So you're just like you're writing off the contributions of others, good or bad.
But them are the majority. But Dr. Hayde, if you look at the last 15 years, with the murders, right, under the UNC, whether it's the partnership, however you want to call it, the partnership, the COP, the MSJ, crime went down. When the PNM come into power, well, not crime, murders. My bad, murders went up, and the numbers are there to show that. And I am not putting you to talk about that part of it. You strictly talking about the statistics. When we look at crime, right? crime involves other things other than murders,
Yes.
right? So that is what you are talking about. But when you talk to a Trinidadian, they are very
Yes.
specific with
About
respect
murder.
to murders.
Yes.
Them don't want to hear about a man get robbed on a bicycle, you know, or a
Yes.
man was running on Frederick Street and they catch him and they lock him up,
Yes.
right? Or they want to talk about home invasion. But strictly, most Trinbagonians today want to speak about murders,
I agree.
right? And yeah.
Let's play a little game here. The number that was given in 2008 was 529. Gentlemen, kindly give that to us. And
Hold on.
I'm not challenging any of his numbers because you could go and research them on the internet.
Yeah.
The numbers might be off a little.
Yeah,
because
they're
sometimes
off a little bit. Yeah.
right, it might classify it differently later on.
Yeah.
Who was the government then?
2008.
Yes.
That was the PNM government.
Okay.
550. That was the
20
highest back then. You know,
Right.
before we came to 20, before we came to 2022, 2023, right? When you go back, right? 2024, 22, 23, and 24, before 2008, 550 was the highest amount of murders in the history of Trinidad and Tobago. That was under the PNM. And now, the first, second, and third, and fourth highest murders in the history of Trinidad and Tobago is all PNM. And the first, second, and third is all under Prime Minister Rowley. So that should tell you something. I mean, it just shows you that.
Wait, hold on. What it tells me is two things.
Dr. Wade, hold on a minute. Yeah. Callers, hold the calls, hold the calls. Yeah, all right. Dr. Wade, hey, let's just take this quick question from this young lady.
Yes, it's fine. It's fine.
Go ahead. What is your question for Dr. Hayde? Go ahead.
You know, I'm trying to tell you, do not have a quick question with me. I am listening to Dr. Hayde. Was talking to Wade. He was talking just now. You cut him off. You cannot cut him when they're speaking. Oh gosh. Anyway, they make me forget. But anyway, what you are saying, Wall Street, I have to agree with the caller. I think it's Mova Defender.
Yes.
Mova Defender. Right. Mova Defender, and with what he is saying. And Wade Hayde do not understand. You're jumping, you're moving the goalposts all over the place. Let me tell you something. See what that man said about at certain periods, the murders go up. At another period, it goes down. And you could look and see the period. And I find that is why are we arguing? That is a fact. That is a fact. And that's all we want to know, period, because I don't count properly. I'm not a mathematician, right? Actually, the caller who was dialoguing with the Watchman were making a good point, and Wall Street is also making a good point, and you're afraid to say it. You're afraid to say in the PNM, murders are rampant. That's the fact, and the story go on to another topic.
Thank you.
We know that.
That's why I was asking that question directly.
Thank you. Go ahead, Dr. Hayde. Go ahead, Dr. Hayde. Dr. Hayde, go ahead.
Yes, I'm saying that's why I asked the question directly, because I could see people talk about a particular government, but they didn't want to say that they believe that there is an increase under the present government or that particular party as opposed to other parties. I am not looking at it like that. When I'm looking over time to see if there is an increase. For example,
hold on. Go ahead, Dr. Hayde. Go ahead.
If your population is, let's say, 1 million, and then your population increased to 1.3 million, you would find that there would be an increase in certain kinds of crime.
Hold on. Go ahead.
Over the same specific period of times. And I'm not going and nitpicking at the numbers to see who it is. I'm saying we came from having murders of less than 100 in the 90s to murders over 600 in the 20s.
Let's take this call. Let's take this call. Caller, you have a question for Dr. Hayde?
Good afternoon, Mr. Washington, Uncle Tommy, and that Watchman there?
Yes, Watchman.
Yes, sir.
That was the man who was fighting Gary Griffith and saying a lot of things. What part of the world is right now, Mr. Washington?
He's in Uganda.
Uganda? You carry a ball patch down there?
Yeah, ask the question now. Ask the question. What question you have for him? Ask him a question.
I do have a caller holding.
Mr. Washington, we should have cut in that he breaks it for the PNM. That PNM, so I looked on this.
All right.
Look, I have a caller. Let's hear this caller's question.
Okay. All right, KFC. Go ahead. Caller, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay, good afternoon, guys.
Yes.
I want to say I'm listening to you good gentlemen over there. And I want to say I'm happy to hear our goodly doctor try to say some things that are relevant to the issue of crime. I think a couple of things that he's missing and not touching into, and I want to first start by saying I'm in the US, so I would say I know he was saying earlier he was against giving people in the US a lot given the opportunity to have guns. I want to say that is not true. Under the Constitution here, the right to gun.
I never said that. I think there was a misunderstanding. Because I know
in the US is not even giving guns to the citizens.
No. I was saying that even in the United States, where under the Second Amendment you have the right to bear arms, they don't give firearms to everybody. And some states, as I know,
under the Constitution and the Second Amendment, people are allowed to have guns, and
exactly.
It is much more.
Hello?
Guns. So to protect themselves against criminals, you have to give the guns to those people. If you dissecting the criminal activity and guns, you have to show cause and effect. So what is causing, who's being affected by the guns, by criminal killings or shootings or rape, murder or extortion or whatever, whoever is being targeted, they have to have protection under the law. They should be given due process to be protected. So I disagree with that first argument of yours. But I mean, to be honest with you, you elucidated very well. You were very good. But the other thing, some of the guys I can overhear here that they're fighting over the governments and the crime and guns and murder and all this stuff, and they're right, because you have to take into
Caller. Can Mr. Dr. Hayde answer your question, please? Thank you.
And no, let me finish. And he will have the guy will come back and go back and forth.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Okay,
Dr. 1 minute.
I think there was. You had asked a question. Yes.
One minute. You have another caller. Caller, you have a question, Dr. Hayde?
Hello?
Yes.
Yeah, I would like you to play first. Very good program. This is the second time I've looked on at this. I would like you to play some emphasis on other crimes. Example, kidnapping and home invasions. Senior citizens are now becoming paranoid. I am too. And they're wondering who next. People are now afraid to go out in their premises to water plants and attend to their gardens, etc. These crimes have increased under the present government.
Caller, where you calling us
Thank
from?
you.
Where you calling us from?
Trinidad. Yes, we're in Trinidad.
Okay, thank you very much, caller.
I still have this caller here. Caller, you here?
Tommy, that's another caller?
All right.
Okay, Dr. Hayde, go ahead now. You heard the first guy.
Let's you had asked the question whether all Trinidadian citizens or citizens should be armed. And I said that will be ridiculous.
Right.
And senseless. And I pointed out that in the United States, where there's a right to bear arms under the Second Amendment, they don't give all citizens guns, and there are well-known exceptions in even liberal states like, let's say, Texas, you understand, as opposed to more restrictive states like, let's say, California, where they don't give firearms to anybody who asks, and they've been trying to restrict it even more and more. So in Trinidad, it cannot work because, number one, we don't have that, and number two, the nature of our population doesn't allow people to be even trained. They don't have exposure to the military and to National Guards and to forest parks, police, and all the kind of things that you have in the United States, where you can be sure that the population understand the right to bear arms. And that's the point I was making. So I think he misunderstood when I was saying that. Now, the lady just made a point which I was trying to emphasize, and I could see where the other gentleman was coming from, and where you also coming from with respect to successive governments, or whether crime has increased under certain governments. I tend not to look at it like that. I was looking at crimes generally and the reasons for their increase over the years, and there are different reasons for it. My argument is very simple, that there has been an increase, a steady increase in gun-related crimes over the years, more and more so. And so, piggyback on what the lady asked about kidnapping and home invasions, well, now they're using the language of home invasion. We call it housebreaking and larceny, housebreaking with intent, and so on, or burglary, if you're breaking into a house by night and committing an indictable offense or therein. We have those crimes on the books, but now we call them home invasion because we're borrowing the language that we see in other countries. And yes, there was a time when kidnapping had increased, and it wasn't a steady increase, was a consistent increase. And then it went down after, I would argue, some spectacular action by the police. But it is starting to climb up again. And you're having other crimes that was very low in the old days, like extortion, that is now increasing. And what we call home invasions, yes, attacking people in their houses, that has been steadily increasing. My argument, and all the time, consistently has been that all of these things have one thing in common: the presence of firearms. Because when you interview the victims, when you interview the witnesses, the one thing that is in common, that the persons who committing these crimes, one or more, is generally armed. Now,
let's take this call. Doctor, let's take this call. Caller, you have a question for Dr. Hayde?
Yeah, worship is a good day to you Uncle Tony and the ex-watchman. Worship never going on. I feel like I have to raise the volume and watch my head because the song is very soft coming through on your side. So I gotta make some adjustment for people to hear him properly.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, sir.
Worship, I think you got to transmit that chance for this message to me.
Mm.
So what Watchman is saying that he looking at the numbers in terms of the murders per capita in Trinidad and Tobago, right, Worship?
I think he heard that. You heard that, right? Did you hear that? Dr. Hayde, did you hear him?
That I'm looking at the murders
Per capita.
Per capita, too, which is another category that they use. No, I wasn't looking at it in per capita, but you can use that as well if you wish.
Okay. All right. You
But
you
that
heard
goes
it.
up and goes down too.
Yeah.
Right?
Mhm.
Listen to Worship.
Yeah.
Me to brag, but this is why I'm trying to understand. The figures were Nova Defender give out in terms of the figures or the numbers.
Murders,
in
the
terms of
murders.
The
Yeah.
murders in different countries, right?
Not one country, in Trinidad.
No, that was just Trinidad. That was just
Yeah,
Trinidad.
Trinidad.
That was just
So
Trinidad.
here's the point I'm trying to make here, Worship.
Okay.
Why I'm trying to understand.
Mm.
If when the PNM in power, more people have been born for the crime to go up, and when the UNC take over, less people being born, so you're having a drop in the murder rate. That's why I'm trying to gather here, you know? Because everybody who have common sense will see that there's a shift in the government, the number tells a different story.
Mm.
So I want to know when other government besides the PNM come in, less people that's born at that time for the murder rate to go down, than more people being born and the PNM for the crime to go. That is my question I want to find.
All right.
Doctor, now listen.
Okay.
I very interesting point he's making here, and he's challenging the premise that you're using, because when they talking about murder rates going up and coming down, they also have to take into consideration the population.
Yeah.
And at particular times. That's why I don't want to argue on those strict numbers. I am saying that there are certain crimes where over the decades there has been a steady increase. And you look at it, you see it's 100, then it goes to 200, it goes to 300, 400, 500. And then when you look at the population, you may find that the population might have moved only from 1.2 million to 1.4 million. You have to ask yourself, then, isn't there a steady increase? Now, there are some crimes like, let's say, shoplifting or theft from motor vehicles and so on, couldn't also increase because more people get motor cars. And then they could also be related to an increase in poverty levels where people engage in more petty and opportunistic crimes. If we go to, you need two more men with doctors who have done research in this field to even talk about those kind of statistics and how you pass it. My concern is that I'm saying that the murder rate and I'm not looking at governments. I have lots of friends in both parties, lots of friends, and I don't have these discussions with them in that way, because I will speak my mind and talk about what are these possible solutions. I don't care if tomorrow morning there's a change in government and what is happening now continues to happen or gets worse. I will be saying the same things, because I believe that our society needs the parties to come together to make some changes. And if they don't do that, the problem is going to escalate. They only argue with each other and say, it goes up with you. And we bring it. If you're not part of the problem, if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. And when they get there and the reality hits, when reality bites, then they start saying something else or pretend that they did not say that.
Let's take this next call. Let's take this next call. Caller, what's your question for Dr. Hayde?
Hey, good evening, Mr. Hanson. Good evening, Mr. Tommy. Good evening, Mr. Watchman. So,
Good evening, sir.
Mr. Watchman, I understand any argument what you're saying. But let's look at the detection rate and the conviction rate. They say we evolve, right? We say that the population increases. So do technology. Do you think we fit in Trinidad and Tobago to handle crime? Because we sit down here and we look at the statistics and we know that when crime goes up. What are they doing about it? Let's look at the figure for national security for the past 25 years. How much billions of dollars? Maybe ending up to the trillions. And what do we have? To buy cameras in Trinidad is a kickback. To buy body cams in Trinidad is a kickback. There's always a third party and a fourth party you had to go through. And nothing could be done with transparency and accountability. And then on the top, we have a prime minister right now that you ask him serious questions, he talks to you like he's a peasant. Go on from here, you peasant. I don't want to hear that. Then how we could have a society that is living as human beings? That is my question.
Thank you. Go ahead, Dr. Hayde.
He made some very, very valid points, and which is we haven't discussed yet. That whilst the crime rate is going up steadily in my argument, the detection rate for the more serious crimes has either remained static or in some cases going down, and that, to me, that's not a reflection of just a government, whoever the government is. We have to look at those who are entrusted with the task of raising or ensuring that criminals meet some level of accountability. And I would argue, but this doesn't just incriminate the police service, it incriminates the judiciary as well, and it incriminates the parliamentarians who do not seem to want to do anything to make it easier to convict known criminals under the excuse that, oh, the police might do something. No evidence. They might have one case to break, and they will use that to say, don't take any action, don't pass any law, don't do anything that will make it easier to put criminals behind bars and keep them there. You see people get arrested, they're out on bail already. They're already out on bail. And whilst we are suffering as a people, and I include myself, even though I'm not physically present, the criminals are rejoicing. They're in England. They could go to Dubai and shop, and nobody touches them because they seem to be community leaders that they, that protect constituencies that are in control of different people at different times. It's nonsensical. And I am just looking at it. This whole discussion to me is about what can we do to address the present murder and serious crime rate. And we have to include what you call home invasions, kidnapping, extortion, rape, assaults, those kinds of things. And I am saying the problem in the country is guns. Now, there is an additional problem, as the gentleman just explained, with the failure of the police to increase the detection rate and the conviction rate. Well, the conviction rate doesn't rely on them alone. It relies on the magistrates and judges to hear and do something impartially. Sometimes I believe that they're always looking very closely at the police. And I sang about that in my song in Is We to Blame in 1995. when I call the name of the lawyers and say they're much closer to the criminals than to we. That is what we have to address in terms of how we deal with this. Now, I am not going to go into any discussion about who is a better leader and who will be a better leader. Now, the gentleman made a comment. One gentleman made a comment that I am the man who attacking Gary Griffith. No. Just like I would do with anybody else, if you make a statement which is wrong, or I believe is improper and not in keeping with the evidence, I would say it. And I have had initially good relationships with Gary Griffith, and someone I knew a long time ago when we used to play hockey against the Army. So there's no enmity on my part, but I would not take anybody trying to embarrass me or insult me. My tongue sharp, and I could cut very, very hard. If we want a discussion about the issues, we can. But if I feel you're trying to berate me, browbeat me, or belittle me in any way, then Wayne Hayde moves aside and the Watchman takes over. All right. Let's be clear.
So, Dr. Hayde,
yeah.
Dr. Hayde, someone says, do you think the addition of the PSB, I don't know who is PSB, I know the PCA, etc., heard the service response?
Yes, the PSB is Professional Standards Bureau.
Okay,
and that's an interesting question. I would say no, in that you need to have entities that provide checks and balances to the actions and activities of the police service. And if you do your job the correct way, any investigation will clear you. There is a tendency for us in the police not to understand that we can be firm but fair. And we don't have to worry about if somebody is holding a camera or a recording device. If I tell you, move away, and if you step forward here and obstruct me, I will arrest you. I will say that clearly, and no PSB or PCA will find something wrong or ought to find something wrong with my actions. But the PCA is outside of the police service, and they are, in my opinion, important in addressing some things that are internal, because they're still on the outside looking in. The police Professional Standards Bureau is too close to the action and too close to the activities to provide a proper buffer. There needs to be something else, some other entity that has the power to get the evidence, information, and to take action against police officers, not for criminal offenses. That's the purview of the DPP, but in terms of disciplinary offenses. Let me give a simple example. The case we are talking about the gentleman who I heard on recording using obscene language. Do we need to charge that person for obscene language and spend 5 years in a criminal court trying to convict? If the person has been accused of other crimes, let's say robbery, which has been I heard one of the allegations, then we can pursue that aspect of the evidence in a criminal court. But the obscene language should be tried departmentally, quickly. And if it's determined that the person's action is likely to bring the service into disrepute, you dismiss that person. So that by the time the criminal case comes around, they're no longer police. What are we doing? The reason why no action is being taken to address it in the service because it's himself to himself. Look, I'm not casting aspersions here, just giving facts. The head of the PSB was alleged and charged for a traffic offense, okay, whilst still in the service. That to me is there's not enough space between the PSB and that particular officer for people to feel that it is fair and fairly done, no matter what the outcome is. If the outcome is the person is cleared, they'll say it because police for police. If the outcome was that the person is not is convicted or charged or disciplined somehow, it was done to prevent them from getting promotions that they were going through the process at the time with some of the other people who they're also competing with. So therefore, it will not work. And then when people come in, they can transfer people from the PSB into other sections in order to get them away from taking action against certain people. Because in the service and by extension in the society, kinship, friendship, and relationships have destroyed all efforts to create accountability and address corruption. And by kinship, I mean that people bring in their brother, their sister, their auntie, their uncle, and all of them in the work and talk to each other, and they protect each other at different levels. And then friendships, people who are batchmates, people who are friends from school, people who are friends in the service or working in the same sections, and then they get promoted and they go here and there. They protect each other as well. And then, of course, relationships where people bring in their wife, their husband, their concubines, their girlfriends and boyfriends and significant others, all of whom makes it impossible for the superintendents to take any action because they don't know who knows who, or they know who knows who, and they will not touch these people.
Let's take this question. Let's take this quick question. Caller, what's your question for Dr. Hayde?
Yeah, good evening again. Mr. Watchman, I disagree with you say with the beginning of family. But let me ask you a question. You know, I didn't address this.
Yes, sir.
Is a business in Trinidad. Who makes the most money in crime in Trinidad? They have a security company charging millions and millions of dollars for transporting when we could have been doing virtual court. The lawyers make a whole lot of money. You can see how much of them silk and all these lawyers make, right? And then there's a lot of on ports and all that passing money and things passing easily. You see, we're not addressing, we're trying to blame the police officers for bringing the daughter and the son and that. No. This start higher up. If you check the money, which government was in the most in power was PNM. Many years. How much billions of dollars they spend on national security. And what we had to see fit? Nothing. No equipment. When you have to do ballistics on a bullet, you have to send it abroad. When you have to do an autopsy, how much pathologists we have in Trinidad? 1, 2? Come on. We have to deal with a serious issue. PNM is the problem, and you need to see it because you know why? Because all young generation seeing it now. Look on this.
Thank you.
I could tell a police when they're talking. Experience. That was a police officer.
You sure about that?
I'm sure.
Listen to this. There's a question here. It says, a person says, do you think union also plays a negative role?
When they say you mean the police association? I have to assume that.
Yeah. I don't know.
I don't. Maybe I think they're talking about, since they're talking about the PSB and the PCA, I think they're talking about the union. Let's say the association. They're supposed to play a positive role and a balancing role and a role that provides the police officers with protection whilst at the same time not encouraging and supporting nonsense in the job. The problem, I think, is that when the leadership of the association are also competing for commissioner and deputy commissioner jobs, you may find a situation where they don't want to rock the boat and therefore get involved in things that are not, that in my opinion, are not proper or not take appropriate action. We've had more than one case, but we had a recent case of a person who was applied for commissioner of police, didn't get the job, and next thing ended up in parliament, and who was the head of the association. I'm not telling tales of...
Who was that? Who was that?
Come on, you if you if you don't know, then in the wrong position. I know you know.
No, we don't want to guess. Then you
know.
All right, okay.
Tell the people.
All right, okay. all right.
And but the gentleman made some valid points. See, I know he wouldn't agree with the family. I'm not saying you can't bring your family in the work, or your girlfriend or your boyfriend and so on. I don't say that they shouldn't be in the job with you, because where the cow is tied, as they say, is there it will graze. So you'll find that policemen and policewomen will tend to be more involved with each other than with other types of persons because of close proximity. But it's when it interferes with the possibility of enforcing discipline, that is where I have a problem, and I'm seeing it, because they're not charging anybody. No matter what they do, they're not taking action because everybody have something to hide. But yes, there is a good point that in my song, My People, that you played, part of that song was talking about lawyers. If you call yourself a top lawyer and go to court and lie to try to save a drug pusher, lawyers get rich, not offer the police, but offer the defendants and those others. And therefore, they sometimes, I think, and as a lawyer myself, I think that they forget that they have a duty as well to protect the society. And I think sometimes they go too far to try to protect the criminals. But the person was making the point that there are those who benefit from the business of crime, because crime is a business. Those who get money for transporting prisoners, and yes, maybe we should move away from, if you don't want policemen to come in court with their firearms, then let's try all cases virtually, if that's the case. And at the same time, you want protection now, because 2 or 3 attorneys were killed recently. Now everybody is scared, but they don't want the policemen to come in court with their guns. But there's a flip side to that. What people didn't know, that there are policemen coming to court where it is alleged they charge for domestic violence, or coming for domestic violence or types of offenses, but they're still armed with their firearms. That should not happen. They should not be able to even have a firearm to come into court with. And that in itself is an issue. So there's 2 sides of every story, not just to bash the judiciary, but understand that there could be underlying factors that cause this to happen. And yes, people have been making money from even from police uniforms. That hard, coarse, difficult material that they made us, force us to wear all them years, that caused scratching and damage to our skin, because somebody had a big contract and nobody would take any action to get rid of the contract over the years and bring some more pliable cotton type material for us to use to wear in the police service. And when I go to other countries, Australia and England and New Zealand and so on, I see the police wearing nice cotton, similar to our uniforms, but they ain't scratching. They have to put starch in it for it to hold good and all them kind of nonsense. People do make money from the police and from crime, and they don't want any change in anything that will affect their bottom line. That's a fact.
Dr. Hayde, the body cam issue been one that's been coming up and hasn't been so favorable. And
yes,
we see at this time that is going to be of utmost importance when it comes to keeping things on a level. What say you?
Yes, sir. And I heard there was a time when the commissioner said that people didn't want to wear them. You don't want to wear it? I charge you.
Yep.
I will look to get you out of the service. People don't understand that the body cameras can protect them from false allegations, right? Can help to their cases in terms of conviction. And if they're doing the job the right way, even if they have to shoot someone or hit them a couple batons or tase them, once they're doing and they understand their rights and authorities under the law, wearing a body cam wouldn't affect that. It's only, I think, that a lot of people, they don't even want cameras inside the stations. And I could tell you that cameras could go bad even in the charge room, or books could go bad because people don't want, when they do wrong things and they're not trying to do the right thing, and something bad happens. Look, I'm a long policeman, an old policeman, and you could be trying to do your job the best way possible, and you could make a mistake. You could do something wrong. I am not I would want to say, let's crucify that police officer. There must be way of tempering justice with mercy and dealing with internal cases of wrongdoing. But not when people deliberately don't want any action to be taken because they want to protect themselves only. That is nonsensical. And a strong commissioner should take strong action.
Caller, what's your question? Caller, what's your question for Dr. Hayde? Caller?
I'm waiting till the man finish speaking.
Yes, you're on, caller. Caller, you're on. Caller, you're on.
Right?
Yeah.
Gentlemen, who we fooling here? Who are we fooling here all this long talk? Crime is a business. And this free to talk like great the Watchman has great and smile and afraid to talk. Let me tell you something. We know crime is a business. I don't know if it was what the Watchman say, who going to guard the guards? It wasn't what
No, that's King Austin. King Austin.
King Austin.
Who going to guard the guards? End of story. Who going to guard the guards? Why you all going around all that? And everybody like this, who are sleeping, they're in dreamland or they're on the moon. Anyway, I know crime is a business and it's very prosperous. The thing about it is the police service or the security is not a business. They're not smart, right? They're dumb. The criminals are smarter than the national security or the security people. That it comes down to that, right? I know young boys who can't even read and write, right? And they have a computer system outwitting the policeman. The policeman going on something and they say, who is that? Where are we going? And what's going? They don't even have things in the car. What they call it again to show you where you're going, whatever.
GPS.
They don't GPS. They don't know where they're going. So how could you all talk so normally? Oh gosh, who fooling who? Who fooling who? And it quacks like a duck. Look like a duck. What it is? Not a duck. Anyway,
Thank you.
You see, Watchman, thanks very much for entertaining me, right? Although it came in late. Thanks very much for entertaining us.
Thank you.
Okay. She,
Uh,
okay.
Yeah,
I saw a question here on because I could see what the question. Somebody was
yeah,
saying something about
yeah.
Tunapuna.
Let me put it up. Let me put it back up. It says Wall
A
Street
birdie
Red,
flag
Birdie just
told
go
me
ahead, you can read it.
is Mr. Watchman was tipped to be MP Tunapuna under the pen. Me? They didn't even tip me to be commissioner. They go tip me to be MP. People, I don't know where people get these kinds of things. I never was involved with any party, never had a party card. I refused to even go on stage and sing for any party. And I've been asked and offered money. I refuse
You,
because
you, so
I,
you
I
put that to
want,
rest. You put that to rest.
but there's nothing to even put to rest. It is impossible, and especially since I've been out of the country more than in for the last 25 years, that anybody would recommend me or even approach me or ask me or tell anybody. And Tunapuna, why not Shagwanas while living?
All right, caller, let's take this call. Caller, what's your question for Dr. Hayde?
Good afternoon to you, Wall Street, Uncle Tony, and good afternoon to you, Watchman.
Yeah.
Good afternoon.
Watchman.
Yeah.
Mr. Watchman is a Calypsonian. Do you think that the Calypsonian them take Calypso where they're supposed to be? Next question. Without police wearing cameras and police don't want cameras even in the station, would you agree with me? In the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, at least 98% of the people them that have been locked up and charged, most of them, 98% have been charged innocently because I watch a lot of Texas police and then they have to wear a camera, they can't mute it and all these things because that is evidence to show either innocent or guilty. And why it is the police and them don't want to wear camera. And I would like to say my part on why I asked you that question with the Calypsonian and them. In my view, Calypsonians and them killed Calypso because Chutney reached so far. Most of them sing political songs, and political songs was not alone for Calypso. And today, when you sing Calypso, it's only Trinidadians listen to Calypso. And after that Calypso, after that 2 days, that 6 weeks, Calypso just dead. Do you think that Calypsonian really take Calypso where there was, or to take it for more politics and make politicians famous? Thank you.
All right, thank you. Dr. Hayde.
Okay, let me. No, it is not true that 98% of the people convicted are innocent. No, that's ridiculous to the extreme. And I can tell you from my own knowledge and thing, no, it is more like 98% will be guilty, but even if they are found not guilty, they might have committed a crime and still escaped judgment in the law. That's as a police, you know that you could win some, you lose some. It is not true. And even in the United States, initially they had, and you guys who live in America, there was a lot of resistance to wearing body cameras. And in fact, people have muted, have taken it off. But when they do and they are caught, they are disciplined one way or the other. So therefore, we have to make sure that we know what we're doing now. Not everybody wears body cameras. There are some people on undercover duties and so on. They only wear cameras if it is necessary for them to record for evidence purposes. Because if the person find you in possession of that, that could compromise you and put your life at risk if you're doing certain kinds of jobs. But in terms of entry into buildings, search warrants, search and seizure, those kinds of things, then there's no reason why they shouldn't be wearing something that could show that they were doing the right thing. And many of the videos you see on social media, I comment on them to police officers, pointing out to them where things are right, where things are wrong, and we have discussions as to the police I would want some of those videos to be shown in court, because the people think that the police doing something wrong when I know that they're doing something wrong. Now, on the question of the Calypsonians, I think a couple of things there. No, he's wrong. Only about 5% of the Calypso song in any year deals with politics and political issues. In fact, during my time, I could name the Calypsonians out of the hundreds who were singing, who would make a song that had a political slant, political leaning, or talk about politics. And I was one of the biggest ones. So everybody know it was Crow, Watchman, Aloes. Of course, you had the old kings like Chogdas. Stalin would go half political, mostly social commentary. You had Luther, all right? And in the old days, you had a Gypsy who became more general rather than dealing with politics as a whole, because it might make you popular with some people, but very unpopular with others. And I can tell you from my own experience, I believe I suffered because of something I sang, for which I was denied a scholarship. But be that as it may, the problem is that Calypsonians only believe that Calypso should extend to Trinidad and to the smaller shows that they go to, and now extended shows like in Caribana and Notting Hill Mass and so on. They have never taken the page out of the reggae dancehall Jamaican experience and go anywhere else outside of the Caribbean, outside of their comfort zone. I was in Africa and I'm hearing Calypsonians songs being played, and those Calypsonians have never visited, don't even know that their songs are being played. And I would call them and say, hey, I'm hearing your song, you know. And they will put the songs on cassettes and things and call it African music. And they don't come. But in Uganda here, many Jamaicans have come. They come all the time. They go all over. Anyway, you show them a space, they will go. Our singers don't want to go. Only once, I remember quite in the past, I saw a video of Marshall Montano doing a song in South Africa. And I was so proud to watch it, and it was good. And I think, and Cohen Dubois. And I know these people, I sing with them. But how many of them are known outside the small circle? We have created a small circle for ourselves and don't even know. I have to explain to people that Bend Over, Bend Over, Bend Over was made out of two other calypsos, Dollar Wine by Colin Lucas and Bend Over by Ghetto Flex and Saucy Wow, Dennis Belfort. And that Bend Over itself, the melody came from a 1967 song called Crimson and Clover.
Dr. Hayde, hold that thought right there. We got to go for a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to wrap up. Folks, stick and stay. We'll be right back.
You're listening to WZYE 95.9 FM. You are listening to WZYE 95.9 FM, the most influential name in Caribbean radio in the tri-state area. Broadcasting from East Orange, New Jersey, the most influential name in Caribbean radio, WZYE 95.9 FM.
We are back with you. It's Sunday Talk. Let's talk politics with Uncle Tommy, Professor Wall Street, Dr. Wayne Hayde, and you.
Man, no, it's crunch time and closing up time, man.
Yeah, man.
The comes to the call. I was speaking about what the government, the U.S. government, cocoa, sugar, those. I want to go to that kind of stuff about the pain I'm going in the country right now. Like also, they set a murder thing. I want to sing a kind of so, Mr. Wall Street, they say, you go with the monarch.
Okay, thank you, man. Cool.
It is quite, you're right.
Mm.
And had I been in Trinidad,
Mm.
I would have, of course, sung against the government. I'm known for doing that. But I can tell you something. I have done worse in my calypso career in terms of the songs I have sung when the PNM was in power and I'm singing. This which make me believe maybe I'm wrong, maybe my songs were not just good enough, but that the judges themselves have a particular slant. Okay? But that's how human beings are. So I could tell you when I was singing how popular my song was when one person was in power as opposed to the other. That is a reality.
So,
No, I
Dr.
saw.
Hayde, Dr.
Yes,
Hayde, wait a minute. I want you to address this last question before you go. It's on the screen. It said,
I
Mr.
saw it.
Hayde, unless you have something to lose, can you give your views?
Anselm, I feel like your question there, you know.
No. That come from the chat. You see
Okay.
the name there, Volsang. That come from a fella named Volsang.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, okay. The question is
Mm.
to give my views on the present commissioner of police,
Yeah.
unless I have something to lose. Well,
Uh,
I as an old policeman, I am always and I will always be a bit sympathetic to the plight of the police officer, and especially when persons are in high office, because I understand the difficulties of the job. Okay? And commissioners throughout the years have all failed to one degree or another in addressing murders in particular and gun crimes for all the reasons we discussed before. I have tried to support the present commissioner the same way how I tried to support Gary Griffith before. Because I want the police to do well. My problem with the present commissioner is twofold, and I know that anything I say, she might take it in a negative way and then become very upset about it. She is a good person. She is a good and honorable police officer. She is intelligent and hardworking. All of these attributes does not necessarily mean that you are the best commissioner or the best person to put in a position at a particular time. I honestly believe that at this time, we don't want a priest or a priestess or someone who are not as vicious as some other person might be. And I think we are at the stage now with our crime, especially gun-related crime, where we need someone with a lot more bite. Okay? All things being equal, and in a more calmer time, there's nothing wrong with the present commissioner or the last set of commissioners being in position. But they are too silent. They are too quiet. They are afraid to rock the boat or interfere with the status quo unless they are supporting another side of the political or social argument. And as a result, things are left to people who may not have the authority or the power. Okay? I know that she is trying her best, but I also know that she has officers with her, not all of whom are on the same page. I go here, think quite out here that you there, and you go here. Okay? And amongst the senior officers, every one of them think that they should be commissioner from the rank of inspector up. And I think it was a travesty when they changed the system to allow just everybody to apply all and sundry. Some of them should not even be considered for the position. And we really look at what we need. But the political aspect of it and the interference from those in authority, whether it's the police service commission or the government of the day, means that only those who they want as commissioner will become commissioner. Not
Dr. Hayde,
not
I don't mean
necessarily.
to stop. I don't mean to stop here, but I have to be honest with you. And the comments come to people. That answer you just give there, it seemed like you tipped the wrong Bally's house, and I don't know. You tipped the wrong Bally's house, and you didn't answer the question about the COP.
Because I did, and I was repeated that for the present situation that we're in, I do not think she is the most suitable person to be commissioner.
But wait.
She's
So
not alone.
You're saying if it was the previous 5 years, she would have been acceptable?
No. I would say no, not even the previous 5 years.
Okay, all right. That makes
sense. I'm
she's
saying
in
that
over her head. Let me say she's in
I'm
over
not
her
going
head.
to be.
Do you agree that she's in over her head?
No, I would say that the executive are not attacking the problem as a team.
Dr. Hayde.
I see. What you all want me to do?
No,
I will not.
No, I don't want you to attack the commissioner of police. I don't want that. But yes. I want when you're answering it, we know you're attorney. We know you're good. We know you are excellent. You are excellent writer. You wrote your own calypsos. So you understand. But many people are living in Trinidad and Tobago want to hear from a person with an expertise like you, who was in the police force, that you know what? It was when they selected Ola Christopher as the commissioner of police, we kind of figured that we would be headed down this road where she was in over her head. And she showed it where she's
You want the answer?
Yes.
If the Police Service Commission didn't take that to kick me off the merit list so that I wouldn't get a chance to be commissioner of police, I believe I would have them on the run and under the gun, figuratively and literally if necessary.
And
you understand?
I think the people of Trinidad and Tobago would have wanted that, wanted an aggressive person who's going to go after the criminals in Trinidad and Tobago. And Ola Christopher is in over her head.
But they did get an aggressive person in Gary Griffith.
Yes.
But he was selectively aggressive.
Okay.
And they are.
Well, let me get back to Ola Christopher.
Right.
Let me ask you a question there before we go. Let me ask you a question. If you had to rank commissioner of police, where would you rank Ola Christopher?
I would. It would be unfair to do that.
Okay,
but if you want a straightforward question, I do not expect Ms. Christopher to be extended for the 3rd year under the regulation.
Okay. All right.
And if she is extended, I do not foresee things getting much better in the present scenario. But the problem is who you go put.
You know what? And
because I believe that the commissioners must have a yearly assessment done in a way not by just the Police Service Commission. There must be an element of public input into their feelings and belief, because a lot of things happen to people where they feel, even though it might not be correct, that feeling of security is sometimes good for the population to say, I am feeling better and stronger because I believe in this person. Not some people sit down in a room and giving grades, and when everybody else looking around and saying, what are they doing? What is that they put there? Who said that? I believe that the grading of the Commissioner of Police should be opened to more than just the Police Service Commission. The state, even Parliament, should have a say in it, and the public should have a say. You could have a chart in terms of how much percentage is under each category. That way, we could get a better feel.
You know, Dr. Hayde,
Yes,
this was really a splendiferous, tremendous, marvelous, just fantastic, spectacular discussion. and we have to have you back to continue this discussion, because this discussion that we had today, really and truly, they have it in Trinidad and Tobago, but it needed more with respect to what's going on, especially you say crime, most Trinidadians will say murders, especially when we talk about crime in Trinidad and Tobago, including murders, including home invasion, including the many other things that happen in Trinidad and Tobago. So
including human trafficking. All the Venezuelans coming over the border without any clearance, any control. They either have to go back home, or we put them in a place where we could control and know who we are getting. And we cannot be forced by any international agency or other countries to take problems that they don't want to take.
Dr. Hayde, any closing words before you go?
No, I'm just happy to share my beliefs. I don't expect everybody to agree with everything I've said.
Correct.
But I love my country, and even though I'm out here doing other things, I look around every day and I wonder, what can I learn here that could make Trinidad and Tobago better? I wish I could come home and retire in Tobago. Believe me, I love Tobago.
Me too.
And I believe that Tobago should be treated as a special case and made a safe zone where crimes committed in Trinidad, you commit the same crime in Tobago, certain kinds of crimes, the penalty should be double. So a robbery in Trinidad, if you get in 10 years mandatory, you should get 20 years in Tobago. That is the only way to save the tourist island, the true tourist island that we have, because Trinidad is not really a tourist island. We're oil economy, gas economy, country. But Tobago is in the same realm as other Caribbean islands that use sun, sea, and sand to get their dollars.
Dr. Hayde, I want to thank you so much, man, for taking the time to join us. And I'm going to reach out to you for you to come back again in order for us to continue this discussion, because this was a very valuable discussion. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And you take time out of me watching the NFL divisional.
But I had to go and but me too, not just you. Me too, All right, take care.
Thank you, Dr. Hayde.
Yes, sir.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Have a good night, gentlemen.
All right.
Good night, sir.
So, folks, there you have it. Tommy, we are going to. Tommy, what are your any closing words, Tommy?